Calos Varona, my friend, tell me, when you fall in love with Jiu-Jitsu?
The first time I fell in love with jiu-jitsu, well, obviously I was a white belt, and I had only been training for about a month. And when I started, I only had a background in Taekwondo. I had never done jiu-jitsu before, so I didn't even really know what jiu-jitsu meant. But within a month, I was already like pretty engaged and coming multiple times a week. With my first jiu-jitsu team, it was called Team Choco. And we were training on a military base. And from that military base, we were training with Marines, and they were very much like athletes and killing machines. And when I fell in love with jiu-jitsu was the moment I got my first choke on this guy that was twice my size from the back, when I had him face down and I almost put him to sleep. That's when I said, holy shit, I got the power! That's when I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So old school, because I started back in '05. We started on the knees sometimes when we weren't wrestling. We started sometimes on the knees. And what happened was I shook hands with the guy. I shook hands. He went for my head. I went for his head, and I did a front snap. When I went around, I directly got both hooks inside. When I got both hooks in, and the guy was about as big as Angelo here, so he's about 120 kilos, okay? I grabbed both because I learned it the day before, okay? I grabbed both wrists, and then I flattened him out. This is where I said, oh my gosh, I could get it. What I did, I let go with one hand. I started to go in super deep. Once I felt like I got it, I didn't know how to do the actual mataleon, so I just grabbed palm to palm, and I pulled it up, and he tapped. And I said, holy shit. I love jiu-jitsu. Thank you, Angelo.
Carlitos, my brother, we're back. Okay, what was your favorite technique as a blue belt?
All right, well, as a blue belt, because I was a blue belt back in 2005, 2006, guards weren't very dynamic. So I played a lot of close guard. I mean, the half guard was basically to get back to close guard. So there wasn't, there wasn't much to do with like many versatile guards. So I used a lot of close guard. And from close guard, my most effective submission from the close guard was always the triangle. I attacked a lot Kimura, but the triangle was one that I was able to even get on larger opponents. And the majority of my teammates were always bigger and stronger than me. But I learned a few little details that just helped me secure it. And when I started tapping everybody as a blue belt, the team started asking me to start showing the other team members how to properly do a triangle choke. So I'll show you how to do it now. Okay, so the setup that I would do a lot from the closed guard was when I was able to control both the wrists, okay? This was one of my most effective ones, and it was just called the push-pull triangle. I would hip up. A lot of times people are old school, they would put the hands in the hips and use the elbows and try to like open the guard like this, or open the guard from the knees, which wasn't so effective, even though back then it was like, wow. So wrist control, once I had wrist control, I would push one hand into the stomach and pull one arm out. This is called the push-pull triangle, okay? Now it's important that when I do that, I open my guard, extend up, and then lock. Sometimes you'll be able to lock it in one go. Sometimes I just lock the circle. Now, because everybody was bigger than me, they were always trying to put pressure into my neck and stack me, right? So come back in 1 second. So what I would do is I would first pull them in, and I would hold onto my shin and push my knee and put my foot here, just like this. So now put pressure into me. Look how he's pushing me back. This is stopping the stack, okay? Everybody was crunching me on my neck at the beginning as a white belt. Every time that I would go from a triangle, they would stack me on my neck and then it would open and crush me, right? Being the lightweight on the team, it was happening a lot. So if I locked in here, okay, I would pull him in, control the shin, put on the hip, and lock here. Notice how my heel is in front of my knee now. Try to put pressure, he's putting pressure, you can't lock, okay? And then I would lock the triangle. And before, as a blue belt, I was still finishing it from the front. I wasn't locking a perfect perpendicular angle like what nowadays is obviously known as the most powerful way to finish a triangle. I would still finish it from the front because I was able to hold super tight and break the person's posture down and get the triangle locked all the way under the ankle with the toes flexed up and everything here instead of like this.
Okay, last question. What do you think about pulling guard?
Well, pulling guard. Now, if you're talking about sport jiu-jitsu, pulling guard is fine. If you're talking about self-defense jiu-jitsu, it's not something you're going to do on the street, okay? Even though it can be effective if it's one-on-one and the guy has no idea what you're doing, you're on cement, and it's just not a good thing to get used to. But let me just say, I've always been a takedown kind of guy until I had knee problems. When I had knee problems because I had to get surgery and everything is partially torn now because of many, many years of impact, guess what? Pulling guard is the most effective and minimal impact way to bring the fight to the ground. And guess what? When I pull guard, I'm either going to sweep you or I'm going to submit you. And a lot of times when I pull guard, I'm already off balancing and trying to come up. I'm pulling guard to wrestle up. So for me, it's a way to not waste time. Like jiu-jitsu, I love to ground fight. If I wanted to stand up and wrestle the whole time, I would join a wrestling class or do judo, and just work my stand-up. I think for no-gi, wrestling is very important to have. For jiu-jitsu, a judo base or also wrestling base is important to have. But pulling guard nullifies all of that. So if a guy is a superior stand-up fighter and I'm kind of concerned that he's going to take me down, I might just pull guard, go down first, know that I'm going to be in a secure position to work from, and then I'm able to implement my game. But if I try to wrestle the wrestler and then he takes me down and lands in side control, guess what? I'm in his world, Even though I can neutralize the position and get back to guard, I don't even want to give the guy a chance. So sometimes I shake hands, and guess what? I'm pulling guard and I'm sweeping your ass. So it's not everybody's style, but I'll tell you though, the closer or the older you get, the more you want to just bring the fight to the ground as soon as possible and get into a nice controlling position.
But also, it's a nice detail the fact that when you're pulling guard, you go into sweeping. You're prepared for the sweep.
Exactly.
If you pull guard and you do nothing, it's going to be a mess.
For sure. One thing I don't like, the IBJJF rules, for example, you have to make a connection before you pull guard. I like that better because it gives the other guy a chance to take you down instead of just sitting down and then butt scooting in. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But for me, I have a certain level of comfort and confidence in my guard, so I pull guard on a lot of people, and I kind of give the other person the advantage of being on top in a passing position, so it can be more challenging sometimes to pull guard. But I think even in no-gi, pulling guard is straight into leg locks can be super powerful. And if you're a leg locker, you want to bring the fight to the ground as soon as possible. So the whole controversy of pulling guard and if you pull guard you're less of a man, and it's no, actually pull guard and play your game and win faster. All right, so before I pull guard, so he doesn't see me pulling guard, I do a little foot sweep. Foot goes in the hip. Then I place my other foot into the hip. I square my hips up with him. I pull him overhead. So I use my grips to pull him overhead as I scoot my hips underneath him. Now I push him straight up. When I elevate, I pull him down. I bend my knees and I extend my legs. Look how my feet hug his hips. Slide into the full mount using my head as a post, and then push up and then start attacking from there. All right, so the next one's gonna work off of a grip break, okay? So I do 2 hands on one sleeve. I'm gonna break the grip. I sit back and down. I try to go in for my dummy sweep, so I scoot in, boom. He comes out, shin to shin. Block the leg, Ashi or single leg X, off balance, and I come out on top in a passing position, okay? Again. 1, I sit back, boom. I scoot in to get my double, boom, and then I connect. Once I connect, hand goes to the other leg to keep the distance, elevate. Pulling guard into something, into a sweep, into a submission.